Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. Oh my goodness, we're back again. I don't know where the time goes, honestly. Keith, I'm so excited today. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and this is our inaugural week for the Dr. Laurie Davis show.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful intro that was created for me, and I have to put a plug in for Prince Fleet Easton in Palm Springs, California. Performer, singer, dancer, has been performing for decades. And I just asked him, you know what, Fleet, I need and he goes, for you, of course.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for everyone to hear it. My special guest today, Keith Denoncourt, longtime buddy and friend from Slave Lake, Alberta. And, you know, yesterday, Keith, we did a show with our friend in Southern California, Ramin Modiri, and he's our financial expert. So we talked about the economics attached to the wildfires. Mm-hmm. So I thought it would be really great to do a part 2 and have you as the guest. Mr. Boots on the Ground, Mr. Retired First Responder, school teacher, videographer. I mean, what haven't you done? I don't know. But welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've done a lot. And yeah, it's been many years for you and I. We've been going back, it's going 15 years now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I just don't know how to say it. You know, like I've been looking at the wildfires in California, and you don't know how to interpret it. Like there's a state of surreal where you go, okay, like is there a difference between 1,000 homes going, 20,000 homes? This is beyond everything we've ever seen before, isn't it?
Absolutely. And where people are still walking around in shock, you know, in disbelief that, I mean, we're just seeing the pictures on television, but can you imagine walking through that? Well, you probably can.
I can. I actually can imagine that because I have gone in my life maybe through 6 full-scale evacuations before. And when I mean full scale, I'm talking all the way from the tundra down. I've done full scale evacuations, and yes, I was part of the 2012 Slave Lake Fire Complex, and at the time it was Canada's largest natural disaster. At that time, Fort McMurray was larger than that. And then when you try to take a look at what is happening in California, and you know, I don't know the exact numbers, but you go, it's 10 times larger than Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
You know, and even with Slave Lake, like we had that on the first evacuation. What you see in the media and what happens on the ground are 2 different things. Like
that, and that's exactly why I wanted you here, because you know, we're just watching it. We're not involved in it. Although a year and a half ago, May, we were evacuated from Drayton Valley.
Oh, right.
For 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, but they saved our town.
Yeah.
So I have some experience, but not the experience of someone who's on the front lines, which is why I really wanted you here. And I can't believe, Keith, 2012 since the Slave Lake fire.
Yeah, it's been a while, but this is where I don't know how to say it, but they're going to ask me, so when does it get back to normal? It does not. It does not. They said, well, and you know, and there's no such thing, like you cannot paint a brush on how people are going to respond right now. Like there's going to be all forms of emotion. I mean, I've actually seen a good friend of mine, her house, the smoke was coming out of the ashes. Okay, like you get the idea, like the smoke's still hot, and she's planting a garden, like planting the seeds, and you got to walk up to her and you go, stop, just stop. And you know, you're trying to get into a normal routine, and you're going, you can't plant in an area where there's been a domestic fire, Like you can plant in an area where there's been a forest fire, but a domestic fire has got, plastics and toxins in the smoke. So all that stuff lands on the ground now. So here, you're looking at agriculture, and I had to walk up to her and tap her out.
Wow.
But this is where, you see both sides of the equation. Like, it is unfortunate that you have looting and violence going on there right now.
Oh.
But you also will see the opposite, and you will see a lot of the opposite. Like, in my case, like when I saw my neighbor going for garden, I go over, tap her out, and then without even thinking, I go grab a skid steer and, drop the blade in the skid steer and like take out, the top 6 inches of soil, and I put it into a truck, take it out into a pasture, and then you go grab 4-year-old horse manure and you put that, and then when I dump the horse manure, scattered it up and rototilled it in, and go, okay, now plant. And you but the thing is, that was pale compared to all the different places that help out, not for profit.
Oh, the support.
Oh, well, when we got evacuated in the 2012 fire, the big one, we arrived in the middle of the night in a far off town, and you're sitting there, you got dogs, you got all this stuff, you're half asleep, and you got this little kid wearing a scout outfit, right? And he walks up to you and go, "Can I get you a coffee, sir?" You go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Bring it on. And then you get another kid wearing a Girl Guide outfit, goes, "Can I take your dog for a walk?
Oh.
Do you need a vet? Do you need emergency meds?" And you have these subsystems and infrastructures, and then you get the church groups kick in, and and I saw one, and and the first thing, you don't want to believe everything you see right now, because with artificial intelligence and the way pictures are coming out, but you see some pictures, and I saw one that was just near and dear. You see the Ukrainian village. You know how they have those big trucks?
Yes.
They drove into a parking lot. They go, "Free food."
Wow.
So you get all things, but and it doesn't just stop with the people. Like they have got systems for animals, and larger animals, and vets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they get pretty well set up.
Well, I don't know how many parking lots. I mean, big parking lots at malls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
More bottled water than I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Oh, absolutely.
Huggies, diapers, everything.
Yeah.
But then you have to look. I don't think we've even heard a thing or a word about, the aftermath, and which is what you can educate us with.
Yeah.
Because the aftermath, I mean, what I'm wondering, and this would just be because of who I am. I'm wondering how many people have taken their own lives already that we'll never hear about, because kind of like the Great Depression, when all your values tied up in your money or your home, and you lose that, there's a piece of you that doesn't think there's a reason to go on.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
People were jumping off of bridges, and we had suicides here during the flood down in High River.
Yeah, and then once again, that's kind of like you said, that hidden blanket, because they don't chalk it up to a natural disaster, and once again, this is such a large scale that even when if insurance companies fold, and this is where your friend from yesterday would be the specialist, then people are really left stranded. But and from my personal experience, and I don't know, I don't want to appear cold. Okay, like I don't want to appear cold. But if you can walk out of that with your health and welfare intact, and your family is intact, you count yourself a good day.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because, when our fire hit, we did lose one helicopter pilot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. He died in the active duty.
Wow.
But you take a look at how big the scale of our fire was. When disaster services kicks in, like the head guys, they walk in clinical. See, I can't walk in clinical to my own neighborhood. I see Bob's house on fire. Well, that's Bob's house. He's a friend, and there's emotion. I hate to say it, but sometimes you just got to shut that emotion off at the door. You
Yeah.
do. You get these guys coming in, from DSS, and they'll go, okay, I need a cat line through this guy's house or through that shopping mall. And they can make that decision mathematically because, they're taking out the source of the fire. They're not taking out Bob's house. They're taking out the source of the fire. And so
Right.
this is where you bring in some people who go in very mathematical, very clinical, and the math of the fire or the math of the that they get will determine the resources. And so like I said, it's just beyond comprehension at this point in time, and it's not gonna end anytime soon because even right now, the air quality is beyond horrid.
Oh,
Until
yeah.
you've had that, like, the middle of the afternoon where you have a flashlight checking on your horses, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's Armageddon type black.
It's bad.
And, you can't walk, engines don't work. And this is where, it kind of gets complicated for a lot of people because, you get people who might get stranded inside a building because, they don't want to leave their home. Well, okay, all right. So now they're locked up in their house. Cell phone service just go out, phone go out, and now they're trapped. So now you have people who are trained to go door to door, doing searches in their home, and people go, "Oh, it's a violation," and go, "Well, they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't." Like,
Yeah.
they leave a kid in the basement because he was hiding, and the cell phones go out, and all, they're held responsible. And then if they go into your house, well, it's a break of
Yeah.
privacy.
Yeah.
So this is where, like I said, it's best to bring in people who can go through that without emotion, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be caught into having your decision slow down because you don't want to do a mathematical choice. So
Right. Well, that's a really good point, for us to think about because if we're emotionally attached to Bob, we would see it as the violation. But if we really care about Bob,
mm,
we would want them in there fixing the problem, right? So
well,
yeah, it's a fine
absolutely.
line. It's a
It
fine
is.
line.
There is that fine line, and see, I know what it's like to, like, when I promise you, the fire was at my doorstep, and um, the firefighters up here, both the municipal and the wildland firefighters, they know me, and they drew a line in the sand, Laurie,
Mm-hmm.
and they put the line down,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
said the fire does not touch Keith's house,
There you go. See?
and they held that line.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have held that line if they didn't know me,
Oh,
So, you know what
oh
I
no,
mean?
no,
Like,
they wouldn't have held a line. They'd have dug a big hole, big
no,
trench.
they would have done something, but like I had, like I said, I had the helicopter bombing, water bombing, 50 feet behind my backyard, behind my house,
Wow.
and
Wow.
so I know what it's like to pack up everything. I
Yes.
know what it's like to see my friends who they say they lost everything. Okay, and I get that. Like you mentioned it. A lot of people they make a. I'm not saying they make a mistake. They make a choice. They put a lot of work into that beautiful car. They put a lot of work
That's
into that
right.
house, and they put a
Mhm.
lot of work into the belongings that go in it. And I value that, and I appreciate it. But tomorrow's another day.
That's right. Well, it's kind of like this little situation. I was in a movie probably about that time
Mm-hmm.
uh, called The Gratitude Experiment. So
Mm-hmm.
Mary Morrissey, here's a plug for Mary. She's a motivational speaker,
Okay.
and she shared a story about the fires. There were fires years ago in California in Montecito, and all
Okay.
these big, beautiful mansions were burning down. And I've told the story 100 times because it's so true. So the media is there, and they walk up to this first couple, house behind them, stood on the ground. So how are you guys doing? We're just doing terrible. We lost everything. We'll
Yeah.
never find, and they were going on like that.
Yeah.
So they passed by them and they went up the street. Another family standing out on the sidewalk, house to the ground. And the interviewer said, "So, how are you guys doing?" We're doing great. Oh my God, we even got our cat out. We're wonderful. You see, same situation, two different responses. And that's what you
Yeah,
were talking about initially.
absolutely. Yeah.
You got a
And
woman planting a garden and some guy, running around
well,
naked down at the river trying to kill himself and
sorry about
everything in between, right?
that. Yeah. Sorry about that. I shouldn't joke, but no,
No, we're not joking, but it's,
yeah,
when you think about the reactions are just, you're going to come from your own experience.
yeah. And the thing is, there's going to be a wide reaction. Like there is not one set way.
Right.
And the biggest mistake people make, they say, well, I lost one card. No, I lost two cards. It's not a measuring stick. Somebody who loses their pet, you can't compare that pet to a house. You can't, like, there's a whole range of emotions that are going to come out. It's going to come in for anger, alcoholism. They did notice a lot of drug use coming up, like after the fire. There was a spike in unemployment. There was a spike in businesses lost. Then there's a huge transitional shift of real estate because the houses aren't available, and like I said, people are going to say, when's it going to come back to normal? It isn't. Normal doesn't is going to be what you make it right now. Like I can still remember when the fire rolled through here. We were, as a teacher, we were told, okay, go home, take care of your family, get out of here, right? So we did. Well, when the evacuation order was lifted, there were several, I forget the exact numbers, but we lost like 40% of our staff, like the home, say 40%. And
Wow.
so the superintendent called this person at home and say, hey, Keith, you got boots to the ground? I go, yes, ma'am. She goes, listen, I hate to do this to you because I just kicked you off on holidays, but can you get boots to the ground? We got a whole bunch of kids here that need you. What do you say?
Yeah. Well,
And
knowing you, you'd say yes.
oh, hell yeah, we were, yeah, but the thing is, most part of education is not the math, it's not the language arts, it's not the social studies or the history. It's a relationship you have with that child. And
Right.
if you create a place where they feel safe, all the learning, like, people say, oh, the learning's going to get interrupted. Not really. There's so much natural learning that's taking place right now. And they did a study with people, like, they go through war where, they're absent from school for 4 years of their life. That does not play any role in ingenuity, perseverance, motivation, inspiration. Like, it doesn't play anything. So I sit back and I'm kind of going, I've seen kids who've lost call it everything. They lost their home. Parents lost the job. They had to get up and move. They're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. It's
Yeah.
not what you wanted. It's not what you wanted, and let's call it that. No, but you don't wake up one day and go, "Hey, I want to lose my entire
Mm.
livelihood due to a natural disaster." Nobody says that.
No.
But we also don't say that to cancer. We don't say that to
No.
accident. We don't say that to a
No.
lot of things. So it is going to be what you make of it. And so
That's
this
right.
is why when my superintendent called me, we would have classes where there'd be 20 kids in the class, and 5 6 would be doing this and 5 6 would be doing that. But you get that ball rolling, and the exact same way that, you may have lost that one restaurant, and another restaurant's going to come in. Like, it's going to be a transitional shift, and eventually, well, like I said, our sometimes things work out for better. Like right now, I think our fire department is 10 times larger than it was before the incident. Like, there was some resources that we have now that we've never had before. And not only in infrastructure, but I'm talking with staff and personnel, because, I can't even imagine the health and wellness domain that's going to be taking place here right now. Like, you have, what, 20,000 homes, 100,000 people, 150 billion lost. Multiply that by how you get the idea where I'm going with this. And then those kids still want to go to learn. So you're going to have to address that in the school systems, like bring in counselors. You're going to have to bring in support workers. You're going to have to get your staff not reoriented, be remotivated, directional challenges,
Well, when you were talking about, a kid could be out of school for 4 years and it's not really going to make a difference. When I was teaching, they were going to, a week to Disney World, let's say.
Yeah.
And the parents would phone me up and say, listen, could you do some home assignments for him while we're in Disney World for 7 days?
Yeah.
And I said, no, that kid's going to learn more at Disney World and Epcot Center in a week than it could learn from me in 10 years. Like, really?
Yeah, well, just going through the TSA, you get the kids going through the airport. I had kids a lot of times, they go, well, like where I live, a kid would go a week, 10 days to go off hunting with his family. Right. And I'm going, I'm not giving, that kid is going to learn more about biology. Like, I actually had a kid do a specialized project for me. I think he was in grade 9, where he took pictures of the digestive system, and you're not going to get that sitting at home. So you sit back and go, I'm a firm believer. Like, I've got people that I know, like, the pure ingenuity. Okay, so they have a problem with the English language. Well, okay, well, that's 3/4 of us. So you sit back and go, and that was their sole method of evaluation for years, was reading and writing. How much can they read or write or repeat what I gave them? And I'm going, man, if only I had a rubric that said, okay, creativity or motivation or resiliency.
Oh yeah. Well, if we could go back, we do it all differently. I know. Sylvia has put a comment up here. Sylvia Somerville is my publisher, and I'm going to put a little plug in for her right now. She's an accomplished author. She's got 32 books under her belt, and she's supporting me right now in getting my books published. She lives in Niagara Falls. Oh, right on. Sylvia, I want you to meet another good friend of mine, Keith Denoncourt. You don't know each other, but Sylvia came out to see me and spent about 6 weeks here. And
right on.
Really know each other. She started out as a client, of course.
Yeah.
And then what happens to me, though? I work with my clients. I get to know you so well, and I get to know too much. So that's why we have to stay friends. People say, why are you friends with all your clients? Well, I know too much. I have to, and they know too much about me.
Yeah.
But Sylvia says, in relation to our conversation, you can replace material items, and memories are always in your heart. But life and saving lives of people and pets is the most important thing.
That's very well said. Very well.
She's a writer. Like, we got to forgive her, okay?
She's a writer. Even spelled it correctly. Sorry.
I know.
That's very true. And see, once again, I've seen this. I've seen, what's that expression? The phoenix from the ashes. You're
looking at her.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, this is where nobody judges you when things are going great, and I've often said that, you don't really judge your friends when everything's going good. You judge your friends of who stood behind you when maybe you weren't doing well, when you needed a little bit of support, when, hey, maybe you needed a kick in the butt. Like, who are your friends? And so I sit back and I'm kind of going, this is going to be a true testament to how people proceed. What do you do with your challenge? What do you do with it? And I'm not trying to take it away. You're going to look at me and say, okay, I lost my house, and I'm going to say, I'm so sorry. You're going to sit back and say, okay, I lost my favorite dog, and I'm going to say, I am so sorry. I'm not going to be that unsympathetic guy, but I'm still going to be the guy who goes, what are you going to do with it? And this is where, you and I are blessed, because for no better term, we have walked that walk. We've been like that. And I'm not trying to use the phoenix from the fire with my guy. I'm more like a smoldering pigeon. But
no, you're the phoenix. Okay.
But
you are the phoenix.
We have been where we had choices put on us that were not ours.
Yeah.
We had things happen to us that were not our choice. They were not our consent. They went against our principles. They went against our beliefs or values. Now what? Are we gonna sit down and go, boo-hoo, boo-hoo? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to. Yeah, I've had my few screaming fits about but mine were different. See, mine were different because there's also guilt of the people who had nothing happen to them. Like,
oh, I want to talk about that.
When I had my boat at the time, right? A fishing boat. I live on the lake. And I would phone up my friends who lost their home and, hey, let's go fishing, let's go fishing, let's go fishing. And the people they're so caught up in, sweeping up the ash, rebuilding a home. And now all of a sudden you're out on the lake, right? And you're fishing along the lake, and you all of a sudden look up in the lake and you go, 2 out of every 3 houses on Lakeshore are burnt. And you're out here in your boat? No. And there was more than that. I mean, there were people who got turned away from the fight. Like, for no better term, fighters are meant to fight. Firefighters are meant to fight. SARTECs do not back down.
Right.
Now, also, you got all these trained people caught at a blockade where it's not safe for them to go in. Call it what you want. It's not safe. And the police come in, they barricade the road, and they look at the firefighter, they look at the SARTEC, and they go, stand down. Tell a SARTEC to stand down.
Yeah, right.
Does not happen.
No.
Like, our guys here, when they were actually in the fire, the DSS officer would come up and go, you've done your 12-hour shift. You're off. And our guys, because they're not union, look at them and go, well, screw you. These are our friends. And now, next thing you know, they're doing 24, 36-hour shifts. And
wow.
It's dangerous, and you don't want to have that. But a lot of people, when they're caught out of the line and they have that guilt going, I wanted to fight. I could have maybe saved a home, could have helped the kid. So there's all forms of guilt that goes on, and it's going to take a long time for it to manifest too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, there was that as well. I know I felt the guilt because we were able to come back to our town, and those flames were licking our doorsteps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the fire was across the street, Highway 39, the entrance to our town. Front entrance of our town has a truck stop, propane tank trucks, propane service provider, gas stations. Like, their big worry was, if that blows up, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And we were gone for 2 weeks. And I mean, we weren't allowed to come back. One of the people we stayed with in their little camper and their 4 dogs.
I had friends of mine, damn good friends of mine. They were not trapped. Trapped's not the word. It's kind of like being trapped in Hawaii. Okay, you get the idea? Okay. But they were trapped up at the Arctic Circle. You couldn't get them out. All of the float bases that supply the float planes, there was no fly zone, and they had all the fuel transferred to the forest fires guys. So they were up there, and okay, so it's in the summertime, so it's actually pretty gorgeous up there, but you kind of get the idea, like, you are isolated all across the globe right now. Like, it's not just regional. Like, they were 500 kilometers north of the fire, and the resources were taken away from them. Like, even right now, and you can see this, Alberta firefighters got boots to the ground in California right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I was watching some of our boys doing precision runs and going, well, that's impressive. I'm going,
yeah.
Well, I'm pretty proud of our guys. They're pretty damn good at what they do.
We were so grateful. We were so grateful.
Yeah, I've seen pretty precision runs off those boys, and their heart is in it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You're not going to slow that down. Well, that's passion. No. See, that's passion.
Yeah. And see, this is where, one of the things that I like to do is, because we've been there. We have been at that point where you go, you know what? I just don't know what to do next. So you sit back and you go, you don't always need to know what to do next. You can take a deep breath, put things in perspective, and rebuild. And this is where even from there, like, you've rebuilt before. I know, COVID hit you, it hit me, I've retired. And like I said, if you take a look, since I've retired, what I'm doing now, yeah, I like that.
We're going to talk about that. And actually, us moving from Nova Scotia to Alberta in 2008, that was another Phoenix out of the ashes scenario.
Yeah.
And I was in a nasty court case 20 years ago. That was another. I mean, I've started over. I actually have a workshop now, how to start over.
Yeah.
How to start over.
But the thing is, when people say that, they go, okay, I'm going to start over. You may have to say that a few times.
Yeah.
And you may actually have to have something that you really flipping wanted and have that. And you don't make the bad choice. You make a choice, and it does not happen, or that it doesn't come through. You sometimes, like, I had the epiphany this year that things happen for a reason. Like when I think you and I, we want to do a presentation one time called the Journey of 1,000 Prayers, because you have to have faith that things have happened for a reason, and no matter how bad, nasty, or horrid it is, what are you going to do with this now? Was it intended? And I don't mean to be too profound, but was it intended that maybe the journey you're going through right now is meant that maybe you're strong enough to help others? Could it be that? Could
Absolutely.
it be, the experience that you have or you went through right now? Could it be that it taught you things like patience, forgiveness? Did it maybe inspired you to do things like you never thought you'd ever would do,
Or could do.
Like, did it finally, was it that one thing that finally said, you know what, I'm doing something that I want to do right now? Because we always make the mistake of thinking, okay, well, we know how much money we have, but we always don't know how much time we have. And we always say, well, it's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. No, it's on your to-do list. Let's get it done. And this is where, even for me, I quit teaching before I could, where like I still could have gone another 10 years, but I had and I don't know when you want to talk about it, but for me, like when I had my accident, that was not necessarily the choice that I wanted. It wasn't the choice that was put upon me. And the difference it has made in my life, like it hit me pretty flipping hard. No doubt. Like,
well,
it got
you want to share what the accident was?
Okay. I was in a pretty bad horse riding accident roughly 3 years ago. I broke 2 of my vertebrae, 7 ribs, dislocated my shoulder, punctured my lung, bruised heart. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And
happened 3 years?
Yeah, it's coming on 3 years.
Holy.
And I at one point in time, I was using horses as a connection for health and wellness into the bush, and working with horses was phenomenal. But I have got 2 beautiful boys in my yard right now, and no matter what I do right now, I'll never be able to recover without help. I have roughly 70% loss of use of my left arm, my shoulder, but it always is what you do with it, right? Because if 3 years ago you would have ever asked me, Keith, is there ever going to be a time in your life where you're not going to have horses? Man, I'm going to die in the flipping saddle. Like, please.
Yes. Yes.
Is there going to be a time in your life where you're not going to have a motorbike? The answer would have been no. Hell no. Well, I promise you, Laurie, just yesterday I sold my motorbike. Just yesterday. No, it's not all. Life changes, and it is what I'm doing with it right now. Like I'm blessed, Laurie. I get to help people. Like, I get to do health and wellness seminars all over North America right now. But people, the you don't call it health and wellness. You call it hunting with a few friends or fishing with a few friends. Like,
but you're working the whole
seriously.
time, right?
Well, I promise you, I'm going to know more about somebody if I am fishing with them for 1 week. I will know more about you in 1 week than your teammate knows about you in 1 year of working at an office. And you say garbage. No, I want to find out how do you respond when I catch a big fish? How do you respond when the weather is rough? How do you respond when something went wrong? These are character traits of a team. And the fact that you and I get to do this for a living, and we can actually look at people who have in the current stage that they feel like they're in the ash, like that's where they're at. They feel they're burnt, they're sore, they're tired, they're hurt. You and I can go all over North America. Actually, not only North America, you and I are blessed. We travel internationally, and we get to take people, and I can take people into the mountains, Laurie, like 4 people, 6 people at a time. You and I can do this, and we can walk through the steps that they need to take. Well, and all you and I do is guide their decisions. We don't make that decision for them, but we guide them through that. And we can go to the mountains, to the Arctic. I think I told you this. I'm doing a project in South Africa right now. I get to do everything from basically hugging the elephants to national parks to feeding the orphans and the students there. And I'm a firm believer that's health and wellness, because you know what? Sometimes when we take a look at what other people have gone through, and I'm not trying to put a matrix up there.
No, I know.
But when we take a look at what other people have gone through, and when we can see how much of a difference we can make, that is a powerful feeling. And for my wife and myself, like you and I, when we do projects, and the reality is there are expenses that go with it. That's just a reality, right? But when you and I may discuss dollars, when we go over to the Thambazimbi region of South Africa, they're discussing cents. Mm-hmm. And, like we have 8% unemployment in Alberta right now? Something like that. I've gone to regions of South Africa where they're cruising 43 to 50% unemployment.
Right.
And when we walk in, and what our tourism dollars can do, when you and I, we bring in a team, we go through a 5-star retreat. Like, we get treated really, really well. We can cruise the national park. I can put you up close to a white rhino, several white rhinos, several black rhinos, giraffes. Like, I can actually physically get you hugging an elephant.
Okay. Well, this is very interesting that you brought this up, because Sylvia, our friend Sylvia Somerville here, she put something else up. But Sylvia was a photojournalist and probably has 13 trips to 15 trips to Africa under her belt.
Oh, because she needs to come
back
with me.
In the day. Oh, you just had an invite, Sylvia. But based on what Sylvia said too, choices reveal who we really are. We had to decide between a longer life for my husband. Her husband, Ray, was passing with cancer, or our house, because they needed the money. We chose his life. No regrets. More smiles and love to share for a few extra years.
Absolutely.
Right? But here, she knows what you're talking about, because she got more stuff on her wall from Africa than I've seen in the museum.
Me, I'm a content guy. Like, I'm the content guy. I'm blessed that, yes, I do some video work, but there's nothing like that very specific eye of a photographer. And I'm heading back to Africa this year in July, but I'm also going to Africa in 2026. But I'm going to do I think a photography safari in 2026. It's a 10-day trip. But once again, it's not just the trip. there's a reason why I do this, because there's a lot of health and wellness team building that goes into these trips. There's activities that we do every single day. And at the end of the trip, we actually get to go, and I make it very clear. And, and if anybody wants to look me in the eye and tell me not to feed an orphan, well, that's kind of an issue I'm not even going to debate. Just ignore me. But when I'm dealing with hunters and sportsmen, it is very easy to get them to commit to helping out a community. Very easy. There's not a hunter I know that'll let kids go hungry. It just won't happen. But on the photography and video tours, what I want to do is I want to say, listen, we're going over for health and wellness. We're going over for leadership ability. Let's stop off at the orphanage. We'll stop off at the school. And you know what? If we can do a fundraiser for the school, like a fundraiser, let's put in money for water. Let's put in money for clothes. Let's put in money for medicine. That's kind of the envelope that I need help in. And very honest, I can help people if they're willing to help me. And I mean that in all sincerity, because there are some people who've got talents and skill that I don't have. And if I had very specific photographers, please get a hold of me, because if you can help me get very specific themes, like I'd give you a very specific theme, like watershed or clothing or medicine. Like if you could actually help me, then when we go over there, you provide me with like that bit of footage. I might be able to get you in on my media rate, and I would do that just because, like Sylvia said, it's not about the money you have. So if I can do this and working together, we can help out a cause. Let's do that. And the cause I'm working with right now over there is the Thambazimi region of the Limpopo province, and that's just what I'm doing over there right now.
Yeah, cool. But you see, I think our point here is that whatever situation you're in, and this is to all of our friends in California, whatever situation you're in, I know that we have the power within us to handle it, to like you say, Keith, I love that. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do?
And you would be doing things beyond your wildest dreams. Well, because you've had to make a shift.
Well, and I get so excited over some of these tours that I forget the reason why I'm doing this. And that's exactly right. There was a time in my life, and it wasn't that far ago, I couldn't walk. Yeah. And I would have dumped all my Visa cards, all my double, triple mortgages, just so I could walk to the kitchen without pain.
Right.
And so I sit back and go, you know what? I'm now to the point I'm walking 4 kilometers, and I'm valuing. It put a context to things I never thought I should reevaluate, but it did. So, when you take a look at what you're going through right now, and for all the trauma and tragedy it is, and I'm not trying to dismiss that in any way.
No.
What are you going to do with it now? And are you going to become a more caring person? Are you going to value, as Sylvia said, are you going to value the real, like the here, the now, like, are you going to value your spouse a little bit more? Are you going to make decisions a little bit differently? Take this opportunity to stop, reflect, grow, and don't, I'm going to say, don't hesitate to get help sooner than later, because it's not, you want to get in on a issue before it becomes a pattern. And if you don't think it's going to happen, you're you're wrong.
Oh, no, I'm okay. I'm good.
I'm okay. I'm okay, coach. And people say, well, it didn't affect him. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's affecting me, and I'm not even there. All it did was bring up all my trauma around my own evacuation. I had to relive the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh my gosh, like our house did not burn down.
Yeah. Well, and I was telling you this before we went on the air. Even now, I've got friends who work for forestry, right? So they pop in occasionally. But in the month of May, When I see a forestry truck pull into my driveway, I wish I could sit here and tell you that my heart doesn't skip a beat. And it's been 12 years. And even right now, when I see a forestry truck in May, or the wind shifts, like, or the smells, like there's going to be a wide variety of triggers. Like even the smell in the air is going to be different. So you sit back and go, it might affect you today. It might affect you 4 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. It might actually be 2 years from now, when all of a sudden, you're sitting around the campfire and all of a sudden you're going to smell smoke. It is going to affect you. And this is where I really valued the way our school system responded. Like, we brought in extra counselors, we brought in extra relief people, and it wasn't just a short-term fix. Like, I forget the mathematical equation of it, but it was you're at least looking at 4 to 5 years of an immediate influx of counseling positions for at least the next 4 or 5 years. And that was in the school system. And then where it goes from there, I can't remember anymore. But
well, let's talk a little bit, just to kind of ride the skirt tails of yesterday's show, and maybe you could share with us economically, or business wise, how is the town now? Has it ever recovered?
If you come into our town right now, you wouldn't even notice. Like, it has got things that we've never thought before. Like, our fire department is 10 times bigger. Our law enforcement is better. Our roads are better. Pool got a grant. We got a community fitness center. Then we also got a community learning center. Then they also had a library. So I mean, it changes. You can't evaluate it on what it was. You evaluate it on what it is or what it can be. And there were people who came in, and for no better term, they made the lemonade out of the lemons. And you had to watch it for a while for businesses, because who do you blame? Do you blame the business, or you blame the consumer? Because there were things that were happening, like farmer A wants a load of gravel, and the seller says, okay, here's $200. Well, the other farmer wants the same load of gravel. Well, I'll give you $250. And so the consumers were at each other saying, well, I'm in a more affluent position, so I'm going to give you more to get the job done. And there were I hate to say it, but there was a lot of falsehoods that went on. You see, in where we were at, you saw people coming in for disaster relief that were not part of the disaster. They were taking the things, but there's an accountability pillar that is going on, and there, you don't want to take away. You just gotta look at things and be very cognizant, because sometimes when you're looking at these, we had people go, oh, disaster relief, and then they go around to parking lots, with all these signs, and they go, it wasn't disaster relief. It looked good, but it wasn't. There was they pocket the money, they misrepresent the money. There were some people who they would play on the emotion of vulnerability, and you have to be careful on that, because they would walk up to these people who just lost their home and said, hey, you know what, we're going to rebuild your home in exactly 3 months. Well, and they go, 3 months, well, that's great. No, there's not a you're not going to get a home built in 3 months. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but there was a lot of people that they get into like the stage 1 of a home, and then they get the finances delivered, then they take off, right? So there was a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of like I said, fraud and stuff, and you kind of got to sit back and kind of go, please use caution when you're doing things over there, and always have the faith that it's happened for a reason, and no matter how profound that is right now, you can make the best of that situation, and you can do things that until you have been in that situation, you never thought you could do.
Exactly. That's it right there. That's the nugget.
Get a t-shirt. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Until you have been put in that situation where you really never had that choice, you don't really know what your capabilities are. And like I said, I'm from my point of view, I have restarted a few times, been through a few evacuations, been in the ashes a few times, and well, I'm definitely looking forward to what's coming up in the next little while for sure.
And actually, there is a poem. I think it's Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "Struggle is a decided advantage, because without it, you never would have gone down there and pulled up the resources that you otherwise didn't know you had."
There you go.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know what you're capable of until you actually your butt is against the wall.
That's exactly right. You know, I'm not trying to be too profound, but that's it. When you don't really have a choice, like there were times, like, you know, when you have a child, they don't know any different. So I don't want you to think that they're going to be left out of anything, because they're not. They're okay. So they're not swimming for a bit. Maybe they're not playing soccer or baseball for a bit. You know what? On a scale of things, they're going to be doing something else. They're going to be playing in the mud. They're going to be doing other things. And the learning isn't going to be affected much in the long run. In the long run, it isn't going to be affected. And I've seen it. I've been through there. So parents, be there for your kids. Okay. Be there for your kids. Take a time for a vacation. If your health has not been affected, you're going to be okay. I don't care what you've lost.
Yeah. Well, you said it earlier. We can always get our money back. We can always get our house back. But we can't get our time back. Yeah. We can't get our time back.
We can't get our time back. And see, this is why this is a firm time for people to maybe reevaluate. Like, I'm when I broke my back, I could have easily been quadriplegic.
Yeah,
could have easily. Now I just enjoy that 4-kilometer walk, but I enjoy it not superficially. I enjoy it from the soul, because I know what it's like to lose it, you know. And so maybe, like I said, some of these people, it might have brought their families closer together. You might have lost your job, but you have that ability to recreate, and you got the ability to move forward.
Yeah.
That's right.
And do something totally different that you actually like.
Well, isn't that the case? Isn't that the case? I mean, I'm sitting here, and I mean, I've been working with a few TV shows for a while, and when I'm sitting here, going, well, I just wondering what's in store for me. All of a sudden, out of, not necessarily out of the blue, but you know, like I get that one email, that one phone call, that one spark, and that's all it took. And when I got called to go to South Africa to make a difference, wow, I've never had the experience before where the rookie gets put in and hits like a grand slam home run. Well,
there you go.
Very humbly, very respectfully, when I went to South Africa, the team that we put into place, I hit a grand slam home run. And I don't want to go too far into that today, but
no, we've got about 2 minutes. That's all we've got left.
So I'm sitting back going, you know what? You can always change. You can always grow. And no matter how bad your situation is right now, seek help. Please seek help. And don't do it with embarrassment. Don't. You're human. This is overwhelming. And if you can seek help from those of us who've gone through what you have gone through, reach out. Please contact Dr. Laurie Davis. She has done phenomenal work for myself, not only personally and professionally. She's a dear friend of mine. And if I can give you a shout out, Laurie, thank you for always being there for me.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. So you've been listening to the Dr. Laurie Davis Show here on Wednesday, Wildfires, Episode 2. And just get out there and make a difference. That's all we're here to do anyway. And thank you so much, Keith, for your time today. We really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with Mr. Doug Smith. I'm the co-host. He's the host of the Press Box. And the Press Box, I'd love to have Keith on that show too, because he and Doug would really connect.
Yeah.
We're doing a show tomorrow at the same time, 12 noon. But this is Doug's show, and I'm just there to support his journey in broadcasting. So he called me and said, hey, I've been invited to do a show, but I don't know anything about broadcasting. I was a hockey player. What do I know? We can't even talk, when we're
Put
interviewed.
the puck in the net.
So it'll be a great show tomorrow. He and I are reconnecting for the first time in the new year. So we're just going to do a catch-up call, but please join us. And everybody have a great rest of the day. Bye for now.